by today's guest, Jeffrey James Binney. He's an award-winning filmmaker, motivational speaker, ultra-running athlete, and recovering comedian. Jeffrey is also a Brooks Running Run Happy advocate, known for his cringy mid-run dance TikToks filmed on remote trails in the desert. Jeffrey uses good vibes and positivity to encourage people to get outside, traveling, and seeking adventure. Perhaps most importantly, Jeffrey is currently hiking the PCT and might be the newest member of the Cinnamon Connection. We've got a fellow ginger here. Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us here on Backpacker Radio.
OMG, thanks, y'all.
Let's start off. I'm not seeing a trail name in your intro here.
It's recent. I took arson.
Uh-oh.
Nothing to do with current events. Absolutely no connection.
Well, then let's go with the story if it's not going to incriminate.
I have a stove, which will not be named, but it's very small, very ultralight, very inexpensive.
BRS?
Yeah. And I love it, but that thing is so unruly. And I've just had I caught a handkerchief on fire and I almost caught a pine tree on fire, but I didn't. And fire safety is really important, just to reiterate that. I did renew my California fire permit just to be safe.
I think you sharing the dangers of this stove is doing a service to future hikers out there.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, where do we start here? I guess, what is the origin story of your entry into endurance sports, and maybe that parlays into becoming like a motivational speaker?
Yeah, it started with ultra running. It's been 13 years now. My mom passed away from heart disease. It was pretty obviously obesity related. I was 100 pounds heavier. And she was in the ICU. What was that?
How old was she?
58. Wow. 58 when she passed away. Wow. Which, she was diagnosed when I was 11. And she kind of was sick my whole life. And I never really, it wasn't until I've gotten older that I've realized how young that was. Yeah. Like, that's so young. Yeah. Especially something preventable, something that's at the end of the day a lifestyle choice. So while she was in the ICU, the hospital had a ultra running magazine. They had lots of obscure magazine subscriptions, and I just kept picking up this ultra running magazine. And one day, on a particularly bad hospital day with just the worst of news, I didn't know what to do. And I just went to a running store, bought a pair of shoes, went out to a state park, and I just ran and was immediately obsessed with it. Like immediately. I felt like a little kid, like literally jumping over logs, like getting dirty, stuff like that. And I think like growing up a non-athletic chubby boy, like nobody was watching my fat jiggle. Nobody was timing me. It didn't matter. Like it didn't matter what I did. And that was a totally different type of running that I didn't know existed. To me, running was track and field. Running was every year when we had to run the mile for the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, and I'd get yelled at because I had a bad attitude and was walking the whole thing. Yeah. So it just was a huge life changer, really. I mean, I tend to acquire hobbies and then leave them as soon as I find them. And this is one that has stuck for some reason or another, maybe because there's so many different variations of ultra running. I think the similarities to ultra running and through hiking are huge. I guess in some ways it's obvious, but I wasn't expecting to use so many of those ultra running skills on this trek. Yeah. But I discovered the PCT like probably 10 or 11 years ago. Dixie was probably the one. I discovered her YouTube channel and just dove in head first. And I've wanted to do it forever. The logistics are so impossible, though. Like, it's so easy if you just graduated college. It's so easy if you're retired. It's hard if you're 30 to 50 and working and have kids and pets and spouses and houses and all that stuff. But the logistics finally came together this year. And I just thought, if I don't do it, I might not ever be able to do it. So I pulled the trigger, and I had a spouse that said yes. That was the big. I've got a really great dog sitter, aka husband. So,
were you surprised that first time that you laced up your trail runners to go on a trail run that you enjoyed it? Because the way that you described your presidential mile run was how I felt about it. Like, I was a fat kid growing up. I loathed the mile run. It was just like another way for me to be compared to my peers and see how much less athletic I was. For you to then pick up shoes so many years later and enjoy the experience, I feel like is not common for a lot of people.
Yeah, again, I think it was fun because there was no pressure in the woods. Again, like there was no, and I didn't start with a training plan or anything. It was just fun for me to just go out there and do it. I grew up on a pig farm in Missouri, and now looking back, I realized I was way more outdoorsy than I thought. I wasn't athletic. And in Missouri, it's the outdoor culture is different. Like, people aren't going for hikes. I mean, they are, but backpacking isn't as popular. People are going hunting. People are going RVing. People are going fishing. That's the Missouri version of outdoorsy. And those things I wasn't super, super into. And I think the second I realized that this existed, I was just hooked. I think I remember the first pair of shoes that I bought. I had no idea what I was doing, and I love them. But I bought the 5-finger Vibram, whatever, the toe shoes, and it was a super muddy day. I don't think I possibly could have chosen a worse pair of shoes, but it didn't matter. I just loved it, and I think I wasn't outdoorsy, and I was super into the arts. I was like a little indoor theater kid, and I had just kind of accepted the narrative that, like, I wasn't outdoorsy, I wasn't athletic, and I was fine with that. It wasn't like, okay, so I am. Like, I was like, yeah, you're right. That is who I am. And then the second I stepped on trail, I think it made me feel like such a badass. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to win a race, but like, I bet I could do this for a ridiculously long time. Like, I bet I could get 100 miles. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to be fast, but I bet I'm a bigger badass than I realize. And I was right.
Was that the first mileage goal, was let's try to get to 100? Or was there a little ramp up?
No, slightly more reasonable. So while my mom was in the hospital, I signed up for a 25-mile trail run, and she ended up passing away about 5 weeks before that race. And I thought I wasn't going to do it, but a couple weeks before, I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I'm kind of ready. Let's go. And it was awful. It was in the winter. It was in February. My water froze in like the tube of my hydration. But I just had no clue what I was doing. I was still wearing those shoes.
You did the race in the Vibrams?
Yeah, in the winter, in February, in the snow. I mean, it was like I had no clue what I was doing. My family, they went to the finish line, and they were cleaning up the finish line, and it's a little scary that they didn't know I was still out there, but my sister asked, and the race organizers were like, oh, I think he must have finished earlier. Like, there's no one out there still. They're literally taking down the arch over the finish line, and I rolled through, and I was miserable, but I loved it. And so then I signed up for a 50-miler. I did the North Face Endurance Challenge in the Marin Headlands by San Francisco. I don't think they do it anymore. But I signed up for that like 9 months later. Same thing. It was awful, but I loved it. I loved it. Huh. And so then I set my sights on 100.
And then was the Leadville the first 100?
Leadville was the first 100 I attempted. Spoiler alerts for if anyone is interested in watching my film. This is going to spoil it. But I attempted Leadville first. Was unsuccessful. I got pulled at the mile 46 aid station. And then I did the Rocky Raccoon, which is a 100-miler north of Houston, and was successful that time.
The Leadville has pretty stringent cutoff times, right? Like, you have to be a really, really elite ultra runner to meet their deadlines, because
they're pretty intense.
Yeah.
And the course is a 50-mile out and back, but Hope Pass is a really aggressive climb, and you do it twice. So you do it, the mile 46 aid station is the top of Hope Pass. So you go up a handful of miles down the other side, and then immediately back up the other side, which is even steeper than the first side, and go back. Yeah. So if you're getting behind at that point, you're probably not going to finish.
Yeah.
I hate hiking Hope Pass. Like, I can't imagine running Hope Pass.
Yeah, I mean so we would have been coming from like the Leadville side, like the Twin Lakes side. That's the first side that you go across, and I was like almost crawling. I mean, I was with a group of people, and we were all we were all in the same place. Like, and we also, it's not a surprise when you miss the cutoff. Like, you're watching your clock like a hawk, you know what's happening. And just to see us all like, why are we gonna do it? And then just see that slow devolving of spirit as we got to the top. And there was one girl who, it was her third attempt. And we got to the top, this lovely man like stepped out from the aid station. He was like, "Hey guys, like, you've missed the cutoff. Have a seat. What can I get you something to drink?" He was so lovely, and she just like lost it, like hysterical crying. And then who pops out from the aid station but her fiance, who fucking proposed to her. It was. And there's llamas. That's how they get the aid station supplies up there, on these llamas. It was just the most surreal. I mean, I'm crying for my own reasons. I'm crying for her, and she's having a whole moment. There's llamas in the background.
Does she like this proposal, or is she like, in this moment of darkness, you're going to do this?
She seemed to, which is a good question. I always think it's fascinating when guys propose, or anyone proposes to people like during a marathon.
Right, like during a time of crisis.
Or in a time of crisis, or in a time of emotional anguish.
That's a real roll of the dice. That could go either way.
Yeah.
It's like, either this is going to distract from the idea that I'm heartbroken, or it's going to double down.
I feel like with the right music, that's like pure comedy. Yeah, like if you put the right music track over that, like it's bad. It's like you're getting pulled from the race, and then all of a sudden the fiance comes out with the ring, and you're like, no.
Yeah. Would you want that?
No. I was very particular about mine. I was a brat. I went and got my hair done the morning of. So no, I would not want that. I digress.
Tell me about you. In your description, you're a recovering comedian.
Yeah, well, so I started in theater as an actor. That's why I moved to New York City. And had a great time, had some good luck, but I kind of got burnt out, and I discovered improv, which I was mediocre at best. And then stand up, and coming from a theater background, you're really not in control of much in theater. You're not in control of what you're wearing, the music. You didn't write the script. You didn't design you're really only in control of so much. And in stand up, you're in control of everything. Like everything, which is both good and bad. Like when you bomb, it's all you. Like it was all your fault. Yeah. But when you freaking knock it out of the water, like it was all you.
Sure.
And so that was really rewarding, and I really liked it. But that industry is tough. I call it the Wild West of the entertainment industry, because most other parts of the entertainment industry have unions, and so I had been in the theater union, and it's pretty controlled. I mean, down to like how many lights you have to have around your dressing room seat and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean they control how many? Like on the mirror that you sit?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the number, but yeah, that's
wow.
Like breaks and things like that. Yeah, there's just lots of everything's really controlled, and in stand up that's not the case. I mean, the stereotypical comedy club owner is a washed up, coked out former comedian who's screaming at people in the middle of the night. You may not get paid. It's just, and also, you're telling jokes at 3 a.m. to people who are barely coherent. It's just and I'm not a night out. Like the lifestyle was just not super for me. So I ended up kind of diverting. I created my own little film project. But then I got distracted by something else. And so I haven't really been doing much stand up lately.
Yeah. Which performance art makes you the most nervous?
Oh. Probably stand up. Either stand up or improv, one or the other. Earlier I would have said improv. I remember being sick to my stomach to go to improv classes. I remember skipping improv classes. I had to force myself, like talk myself to get out the door and go, because I was so scared. But then once you've done it for a while and you pull the Band-Aid off, it ends up being really empowering, especially as a theater actor, where every word you're going to say, everything that's going to happen. You kind of get this confidence of like, you know what, like the freaking theater could fall in and we're going to figure it out. Like the show's going to go on, we're going to do something. Yeah. And that's really empowering as a performer. Stand-up is scary because you don't know the audience, and it's a two-way street. Like a comedian will have a good night or a bad night, but also like the audience the best of comedians may not have been able to really get that audience engaged. And so that's a wild card that's scary too.
When you say improv, like I'm thinking like someone gives you a scenario and you do a bit. Does that count?
Yeah. So I did mostly long form improv, which is more like the longer story based stuff. So less like what was that amazing TV show that was short form?
Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah. So less that like short form stuff, and more like there's lots of different forms. It's maybe like give me a suggestion, and you could say anything, anvil, and then that's going to like spark like something that's going to be a longer like scene with recurring themes and things, or at least that's the hope and the idea.
Well, it's funny that you say give me a suggestion, because in my mind I was like, what if we create a hiking setup and put him on the spot to do a quick improv bit.
Yeah.
Like hiker goes into town and
I'm wondering, we could do this at an event that we haven't announced yet at
Yeah,
a certain time of the year in a certain place that we're...
So you don't want to play this game with me
We could.
Hiker goes into town and...
hiker goes into town and is not wearing pants.
Really has to poop, but nothing will come out.
Do we just keep going until...
I don't know. I'm just setting a scene.
I don't know. This is not a thing I'm familiar with.
I'm just creating a scenario.
Yeah, sure. And it is 10 degrees below outside.
This is getting very specific.
Yeah, okay, we'll stop there.
I don't know the practice.
Hi. Do you know where I can find the closest bathroom? Maybe there's a clothing store that has a bathroom.
Oh, am I supposed to play back?
Somebody has to participate.
Zach is playing back.
You're the one who's doing this.
Zach, play back.
Yes, I'm the clothing store owner, and I realize it's very cold outside, but our bathroom is only for customers.
What can I buy? Do you have pants? Can I have some pants?
We only sell very expensive leather pants.
Great. What's your return policy?
If you poop in the bathroom, they're non-refundable.
Do I have to poop in the toilet? Is that? I think that people not pooped in the bathroom.
Okay, we can stop.
I think watching Zach get uncomfortable by the art.
Did you see how I zoomed in? I saw he was uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's like chasing a gazelle or something like that.
Okay, so now we know that performing arts makes Zach uncomfortable.
I still don't even know what we're doing, but the sketch was.
I think you just said you wanted to lead an improv show at this unnamed event.
I think if we fleshed out the format a little bit beforehand, we could make this happen at
You're going to need some
practice.
Yeah.
I'm going to need some practice. I'm deflecting to you, definitely. Okay. I think I had another question related to comedy and it slipped my mind. So we'll come back to it maybe. But so you mentioned your film. I saw the 2-minute is a trailer on your website.
Yeah.
Is that a trailer for the film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the film out?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you mean like the teaser on my website?
Yeah.
No, that's my motivational speaking trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's on Amazon Prime and some other platforms. After I was a mama's boy, and it would be an understatement to say that I wasn't doing exceptionally well the handful of years after she passed away. And I moved to Los Angeles, and all I wanted to do was disappear into the woods to run, write jokes, and tell said jokes. And I was so antisocial, and one of my best friends was finally like, hey, do you think maybe there's like a healthier way to do these handful of things that you're willing to do? You don't have to hang out with us, but can you maybe let somebody know when you disappear into the mountains for a week? And I had the idea for a little film project. I was like, what if I had a 100-miler in my sights? I was like, what if I run a 100-mile ultra marathon, or try and document the process of training for and running it, and then write my first hour of stand-up storytelling and make a little hybrid film of some sort. And in true LA fashion, I was a nanny for a family in Beverly Hills at the time, and they owned a video game studio, and I had kind of mentioned the idea casually to the mom of the family. And the next day she called in the afternoon and she's like, hey, like, can you bring the child down to the office? They want you to pitch your film idea. Oh, that's not how it happens. That's not how it happens. And you also don't just like casually pitch it. Like, that's something you would prepare for. You'd like create a slide deck for, you would rehearse. But I went down, and I guess they were launching a little indie film division. They were looking for some low budget, quirky projects. And within 48 hours, like, it had a green light and like was starting. And 2 weeks later, they were purchased by a Japanese gaming company that had no interest for this not yet established film division. And so as quickly as it arrived, it was, pulled away. And I had already started to assemble some friends in the industry who were going to work on it. And they're all kind of like, hey, we're excited about this project. It sounds fun. It sounds like it has a lot of heart. Like, everyone will work for free or next to free. So we just got scrappy and got this little film done. And then it doesn't always work this way, but usually with independent film, the scary part is you have to make it first and then hope to God that you can sell it or get it on a platform. And luckily we were able to find a distributor that got it on Amazon. So it all worked out, but it was, everyone wants to talk about running a 100-mile ultra marathon, but honestly, the filmmaking process was the more difficult marathon, for sure. But anyway, I don't know what the question was.
Yeah, I don't know what the question was either, but tell me about the elation of actually getting it picked up by Amazon Prime.
I mean, huge, because at that point, I had done some exciting theater stuff, but I probably had, maybe 3,000 followers on Instagram. Unfortunately, that's, your audience size. That's your value now in the entertainment industry, for better or worse. And that gained me some followers. It was really great exposure to have it on Amazon. It started to help me create a community with a purpose. I guess I was it's maybe where I would have ended up anyway, but the community that came with the release of that film, like, put me in a position to be able to advocate for just more diversity and inclusivity in the running community. I've been excited on the trail to see a lot more diversity than expected. And the trail running community, for sure, is one of the funkier, more accepting outdoor communities, but there's still work to do. I still go to starting lines and it's mostly white men, but on the trail, I've been excited to see how many women there are on trail. I feel like it's way more even, if not even, I don't know. I will look at the survey, I guess.
Yeah, I think the PCT is even more of a gender split compared to the AT as well, but yeah. So Once Is Enough is the film. People can watch it on Amazon Prime. Is it included with the Prime membership, or do you have to pay?
Yeah, it's included with the Prime membership. It's also on a bunch of other platforms. Sometimes it's on YouTube Movies for free. Yeah. It just depends.
Yeah.
The quick little blurb about it on your website is so funny. It says, after losing his mother to obesity caused by heart disease, a 32-year-old chubby ginger comedian and vegan son of a pig farmer sets out to avoid the same fate by running one of the... So for some reason, vegan son of a pig farmer is like the funniest, 5 words.
Only vegetarian, no.
Yeah.
Vegan's hard. It's so inconvenient.
And you're doing that while hiking.
Yeah. I had one breakdown. I was losing weight way too fast, and I was trying to figure out how to get more calories, and I was like, you know what? I could do some tuna packets, like, if I needed to, if I'm not getting enough protein or something. But that wasn't a factor, and it was disgusting. Yeah. I was not into it. It was one of the flavored ones, and it wasn't for me.
I'm going to assume, tell me if I'm wrong, that growing up on a pig farm influences your decision to be vegan.
Yeah, for sure. I always, as a little kid, hunting is huge. My dad is a big hunter. Most of our meat was either meat that we grew, beef that my dad's best friend grew on his ranch, or venison meat that my dad had shot. And I loved going hunting. I loved the tracking. I loved being outside, hunting them down, looking at the tracks and following the rubs on the trees. That part was super fun. I just didn't like the murder part and watching them die and carrying their carcass home. That was the part that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I also loved helping with in the field with the corn and soy, harvest and stuff like that. But I hated doing anything with the pigs, because the only time my dad needed my help was when it was time to castrate them. But it's a pretty big farm, so we call it working the pigs, when they're a certain age, when they're adolescents. you castrate them, you give them some different vaccinations depending on what's going on. Sometimes you wring their noses. Pigs naturally root, and if you keep them in a confined area with a dirt floor, they'll create these like massive mud pits. They'll all root in the same space, and then they get stuck in the mud pits and die. Like my dad would have to go out and hook a chain around them and pull them out of the mud with a tractor. We have to be off topic. What was the question? The pig farm. Yeah. So all that to say, like, I was never into any of those components when I was a little kid, but it wasn't until I was an adult and a friend who was a vegetarian knew I grew up on a pig farm and loved to engage me in conversations about it. I didn't really care, but he liked to poke the bear, and it was fun to get him worked up. So I'd pretend like I was the biggest carnivore on the planet. And he bet that I couldn't do. PETA had like a 30-day challenge where you could register and they'd send you information on how to go vegetarian. And I was like, I can do that. And the more I researched, the less I wanted to eat meat. It was a lot easier than I expected. I also was kind of starting a health catharsis in general. That was right before my mom passed away, but around the same time. It's like asparagus. Like I did a deep dive into the nutritional value of asparagus, and this weird shift happened where like when I knew it was in it and knew how healthy it was, I liked it. Like, so there are all these like vegetables that I really hadn't been exposed to. The culture of food in like rural Midwest is everything's fried, everything's potatoes, everything's beige. And so I just kind of had a like little epiphany like, hey, I do like broccoli actually. And I didn't miss meat. And so it stuck.
Did you have any sort of pushback? Because when you say that you used to go hunting and used to do these things and used to help with the castrations, part of it sounds like maybe perhaps your dad might have thought you were going to go into the family business, and now being a vegan and like hiking all the way out here and not doing any of that, was there any point of contention about not following in the footsteps?
No, I'm really lucky in so many ways. My mom and my dad both. That's exactly what happens. Like the expectation is for me to take over the farm. Like that's what happens. Familial farms are huge. I'm sure they're huge everywhere, but there's probably nothing I could do that would piss my family off more than if I were to inherit some of our land and sell it out of the family. Like keeping family farms in the family is a really big deal to farming families. And that's the expectation. It was pretty obvious from a pretty young age that I probably was not going to be the farmer type. And I have one sister. She's 8 years older than me. And we're similar in like the ways that matter. We're similar in heart, but we couldn't be further apart in everything else. Now she lives on a farm not far from my dad's farm. She raises pigs and she manages the farm for him. She was an undercover narcotics officer like when she was younger. She's a badass. She's lovely and so empathetic and compassionate, but when she needs to be, she can get shit done. And I went off to New York to flit about on stage. So in those ways we're pretty much the opposite. So she's there. Yeah. And I have 3 nephews who at least a couple of them seem super, super interested in farming. So I think we're going to be okay. But all that to say, my parents really didn't put a lot of pressure on me in that regard. In kind of all the regards, you know. I mean, also I was like clearly a little chubby gay boy when I was 4 years old. I was doing like one-man versions of Les Mis in the bay window of their bedroom. I mean, like, you know, when I finally came out at the age of 30, it was like Grundy County, Missouri's worst kept secret. It was like such a non-event. My dad was like, "Oh yeah, okay." So like in all those ways, I just was really lucky. I don't know if you're Schitt's Creek's fans.
I love Schitt's Creek.
I think one of the things I love most about that show, and Dan Levy, the creator.
Are you David?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. But I think one of the coolest things about that show is, like, it's a small town and you expect it to be super homophobic and you expect those themes to come up and it never does. And Dan Levy, the creator, has talked about that. He was like, you know what, like, let's have this doesn't exist. So let's let this fantasy town exist. And in a way, like, that's kind of how it was. It's probably partly like the privilege of being a white man, but I just got so many passes. Like I should have dealt with so much more homophobia. I should have dealt with so much more bullying than I did. I should have dealt with, you know, we went to, I wouldn't say we weren't religious, but church is kind of the only social outlet in small towns like where I grew up from. So we went to church, and I think on the outside we probably would have looked more religious than we were. But there wasn't religious pressure. There wasn't, I don't know, I just got really lucky. We also traveled a ton, which for rural Missouri is not common. It was very few of my friends growing up got to travel like we did. So I just got really lucky. They were really cool, really open. And they were so excited about all my theater stuff. Yeah. Like my dad still is. Like they're both just hyper supportive.
That's amazing, because on paper, you're right. Like, you should have dealt with so much bullying. It's just a sign of how much progress we've made as a society, that in rural Missouri, you can grow up in that circumstance and people are cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I just turned 42, and it's interesting to see, like, teenagers, little gay boys who are in relationships openly and have been, and, like, half of me is just so heartwarmed and, like, loves that, and the other half is like, F you. I hope you appreciate that.
I paved the way for this. That's funny. This is a terrible segue, but this is the thing that I have to talk about, is your TikTok dances on the PCT.
They're so good.
They're awesome. Yeah, we watched minutes of them this morning, and they're like, the idea of me describing it is funny, but they're so well done. Like, they're choreographed beautifully, and the cinematography of it is great. Where did this idea come from?
Well, when I had just gotten my commercial drone pilot's license, and I was on some BLM land in southern Utah, and TikTok was just happening, and I was wanting to play with my drone, and I was like, I wonder if I could like learn one of those dances and shoot it with the drone. That would be a good practice. So I did, and it did well, and I said like, oh, I need to do more of this. Like, that worked, and I didn't for another year, and I was on a run. There was a little bridge on a trail that doesn't look anything like the bridge from the movie. But there's a scene in Dirty Dancing.
I watched this video like 5 times this morning. It's so fucking perfectly timed to all the shots.
There's a scene in Dirty Dancing where she's learning the choreography, and she's like trying to dance on the bridge, and she gets frustrated and kicks the bridge. And for some reason, this bridge reminded me of it. I was like, I'm going to bring my camera gear up here, and I'm going to recreate this. And I remember being terrified someone was going to walk by. I was so embarrassed, and people did, and I like pretended like I was just taking a break, and that is the one that like exploded. Like, I didn't realize how much nostalgia there is around that film, and so then I just kept at it. I think what I enjoy about it is what I think other people enjoy is that it seems unexpected. Like, I don't seem like someone who is going to be on a trail dancing or can even like dance halfway well. It's fun for me because I've taken dance lessons since I was 4. I grew up like as a musician. Like that. It actually makes all the sense in the world if you know me. But so it's just fun because it's super me. But I love how unexpected it is for other people.
What's funny is you came across my feed, and I didn't know this until this morning when I was like doing a deep stalk, but I didn't notice that you had come across my feed in previous weeks because it wasn't in any way hiking related. It was the whiteboard with the 0 days since I've mourned over my dog who's alive and well.
Oh, you saw that one?
Yeah, it came up like it was in my dog algorithm because I have a lot of like Australian Shepherd content coming my way, and I saw that one, and I remember thinking that's absolutely hilarious, and then just like kept scrolling because it was just one of those. And when I was going through today, I saw that, and I was like, no fucking way, this guy is the one that made that video.
It's me.
Yeah, you have to watch it. It's great.
It did so well. If your metrics are down, dead pet content, it kills.
Oh, no fun. Do you head into the PCT with a list of dances and locations that you want to execute on? Is this something you think of 24 hours before you get there? Like, what's the prep for something like this?
So I've only done 2 on the trail. Okay. I think
you need to do more. You need to get one on Bridge of the Gods here.
We got to do one, the 3 of us. That.
The problem is he can dance.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You can too. I'm sure of it. What is it?
I think Zach could do it with some encouragement. The one where you had the three of you.
Oh yeah.
I don't know
that must be some popular song in Russia because I got like 10,000 followers from Russia from that reel.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Over 200,000 likes on that one.
How did you make 3 of you?
Well, I kind of piss me off because Adobe Premiere. It's what
we use it.
Yeah. Okay. So you know Premiere. So you just mask. You just mask around. You pick the one that you want to keep the background of, and then the other two you just you mask out everything. And now it does smart masking, so you don't have to do very much manual. It does a really great job of it. If you see right there, you can see the white glow around the middle one.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes sense when you say Premiere, but I had just assumed when I was watching it, surely he didn't put that level of effort in. This is like a TikTok filter.
Well, that's what I was saying. It pissed me off because I did put that amount of effort in, and then maybe 2 days later found out that there are 2 different iPhone editing apps that
because you see the ones where people dance with them in the background. But that's why I was so confused this morning because you were wearing different outfits, and I was like, this can't be that filter because his outfits have changed.
Yeah, no, I way overcomplicated it. But there's a couple now that will do. It doesn't multiply the same thing. It will let you mask in the same way.
I'm such a dummy. I legitimately thought you had 2 friends that were pulling this off with you.
What did you think I meant this morning when I was like, how did he get 3 of him?
I thought there were just 3 guys that had similar appearances.
You thought I was like, how did he go out and find 2 identical humans? Yeah. Bring them out to the desert?
Honestly, that makes more sense to me than the editing prowess behind it. So, you learned something.
I don't know if you follow Twin Sauce. They're 2 dancers. They're twins from Kansas City, but people often think their content is them. They've done the same trick, but there actually are 2 of them because they're twins.
Oh, interesting.
Do you have more dances planned before the end of this?
Well, so, the content has been so hard. Right before I left the trail, one of my friends was like, how often are you going to post? And I was like, I think at least 5 days a week, 6 days a week. I might not always have reception, but I think that's how much content I'm going to churn out. That was ridiculous. I mean, the first month, I just was trying to survive. I had no energy to learn choreography or dance or anything. And it's I've kind of slowly figured out how to create content while I'm on the trail. But I don't know. I have no more planned until I just realized how interested you all were in me doing more. And I feel the pressure.
What other dances are on your radar? What other dances do you think would be good ones?
It's such a smart marketing move, but Meghan Trainor has tons of them. And it's not accidental. Do you know those 2 British girls? I'm blanking on their names. Or Chris Olsen, all influencers. But she's brought them onto her team to create TikTok dances that then she's basically fabricating virality with her dances with her songs. So then they're getting tons of plays. It's so smart. So smart.
Is Meghan Trainor, she's all about that bass. Yeah. That bass. No, okay.
Keep going.
No treble.
Give him more whiskey.
I was just making sure I was on the right person.
I tend to overcomplicate them. I think one thing I'd like to do is just put on a song and just do my own thing. That could be entertaining too. But I really feel like I have to have the drone out and it has to be rehearsed and it has to be perfect, and it doesn't.
Here's a fun idea, mainly fun for me. After this, we should have you improv a dance to Walking Slow, which is our theme song. And that can be our
the
teaser.
Opening song?
Yeah. I don't know how you would do that because it's not one that you would think would have an artful dance, but I think that'd make a great
maybe it's an interpretive dance.
Yeah.
How does that song make you feel?
Is there a lot of pressure in creating content given your performance background that it has to be very clever? Because I feel like most people go onto the trail and it's just a stream of consciousness about their day and, they don't overthink things. For you, I imagine it's a different process.
I think most of the pressure is on myself. A huge thing on trail, I was shipping my laptop from town to town so that I could edit. Because I hate editing on a mobile device. And I got over that. I got my iPad and I've been editing on that. So that was really hard for me to not have more control over the editing.
Yeah. So you hiking with an iPad and a drone?
The drone I've only had for one section. It's in my balance box. There's almost nowhere that you can legally fly it. Yeah. And because I have my license, that's super tracked. So well, nice.
We digress.
We're going to cut this. Most people can get away with flying a drone in a lot of places, but I would lose my license if I got caught. So anyway, there's not very many places that I can fly it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had it a couple times. They're just so epic. A drone shot just instantly lends a level of epicness to everything. I think that's part of the reason why some of my dance reels did well, because it seems more epic and high production value than it actually is.
How has ultra running compared to through hiking?
Well, I'm about to sign up for a 50 miler in Lakewood at the end of September. And I'm going to test my theory that through hiking is a brilliant way to train for an ultra marathon. I haven't ran without my pack much other than like just down the street, but I feel like a frickin' feather. Like I'm so used to having those 35 pounds on my back. So I don't know. We're going to find out how that goes. But I think, from like shorter runs to ultra runs, it's just like, you just keep doing the same thing. Just don't stop. Like it's just that, but longer. And this feels like that next progression. This feels like ultra running, just a lot longer and slower.
Yeah. What advice would you offer to someone that wants to get into ultra running, that will say they don't have the long distance backpacking experience? Because I agree with you. I think that is a good way to like ease into something like that. Somebody that without any running experience, what general tips would you offer them?
I think it's really hard to deal mentally with how little you can do in the beginning. I think it's really hard to not be demoralized by, when I first started running, I couldn't have ran a full city block. But one of the core tenets of ultra running training is just increasing your volume a little bit more, and that progressive push in volume is so easy as long as you bite off small chunks at a time. So as long as you don't get discouraged by the fact that you're training for a 50 miler, but you currently can't run more than a quarter of a mile without taking a break. I think that's one of the hardest things in the beginning, because there aren't very many people out there telling you like, it's okay if you're slow. It's okay if you just have fun. It's okay. That's not what most people are saying to people. And so I think it's hard to get started because you suck at it, but it's great that you suck at it and you're going to get better at it. And even if you're never good at it, it doesn't matter. Like if you're doing it for the right reasons, it doesn't matter whether you're good at it. And I think I've had that on this trail a couple times where I've gotten so caught up and like, oh, I shouldn't skip that. Someone's going to judge me for that, or I shouldn't take a break here. Why the F not? Like everyone has different reasons for doing this. And mine, number one, is to have fun. So I can't remember her name, but you had a guest recently and I was listening to that episode and she talked about, it was, she did the AT. She was the one who shit on the trail.
You have to narrow it down. Like
that's literally every
You know where you are.
But she was talking about how like towns were half.
New Hampshire, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that we both got to that at the same time.
Yeah, right. Took a second.
She talked about how like the towns were half of why she wanted to do the trail. And I was like, yeah, me too. Like, why am I going to rake myself over the coals for spending 4 days in Bend? I've never been there. It's been on my radar for years. Like, that's okay. Like, that's also why we're here. It's okay if you need to set foot on every inch of trail. It's okay if you're just doing a section hike. Like, I think that's one thing that I haven't thought was super awesome on the trail is that like everyone, I hate to say hike your own hike, but I think there's so many people who like are judging other hikers for not hiking their hike. And it's like, we're not all out here to do the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
That was a surprising thing when I started the PCT too, was realizing how much the internet cares about like, what ground you're stepping on, like in terms of did you connect, did you not connect, like all that stuff was something, because the PCT was my first hike too. Mm-hmm. Just being like, whoa, like I had no idea there were people that cared so heavily about this. And when you put your hike on the internet, you find them and it's just shocking. Mm-hmm. Like of all the things happening in the world, this is the hill that you are gonna die on.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes me want to go the opposite way. I think if I have any value online, I hope it is showing people that you don't have to be whatever you think a thru hiker is, whatever you think an ultra runner looks like, you can still participate. Like it doesn't matter if you're not what you think you need to be.
Yeah. I want to go back to the ultra running thing for a second. How do you determine your weekly volume and pacing? I know this is kind of nitty gritty stuff, but running is a thing that I've just done very as a hobby, never like super seriously. So I'm curious to know like your thinking behind this stuff.
Well, I was lucky. Do you know who Ian Sharman is? Mm-hmm. He's a British ultra runner, but he lives in the US. He had the record for the fastest time in the U.S. for quite a while. I was lucky enough to coach with him. And my typical training schedule still, because of that, I like to do like medium length on Tuesday, a chill Wednesday, medium length on Thursday, and then back-to-back runs on the weekends. And it depends. I mean, if I'm not training, if I don't like have an important race coming up, I'm not doing that on a regular basis. I don't want to pretend that I'm on some rigid training schedule. But for me, it's all about the long runs. If I'm going to skip runs, the weekday ones, except for I started doing some more like speed work that I had avoided for years because I was like, I'm not gonna be fast. Why do I need to do speed work? It's epic. Everyone needs to be doing speed work.
In terms of your enjoyment or actually benefiting your times?
Benefiting my times, which I don't care about my times other than I'm always out trying to outrun the cutoffs, because a lot of the ultra marathons have, well, for me, they feel aggressive, but time cutoffs. And that was the game changer for me. That was like the difference of me like being 15 seconds ahead of time cutoffs and having like a half hour to spare. It really increased my speed. And I thought that was only for like fast runners, but it's not. I mean, it's strength training for runners at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's such a smart idea to base times off of the cutoff times, because I'm like a very poor runner. I'm asthmatic. Immensely, and always I get on the bandwagon and then I very quickly get off of it in my running journeys, which are few and far between. But when you are not a good runner and you're trying to get into running, what I've found is it's very hard to figure out where to set a goal, because there's a lot that you'll see that's like, don't go too fast. If anything, slow down, like go slower than you think you need to go. And then it's like, okay, well, where do I set my goals then? Because it's either going to be something that I make up for myself, or like there's just nothing that you can say, I have to do it by this time. And to take when you're going to get booted from a cutoff, that feels very approachable because it's like the longest time available. I don't know. That blew my mind. That's really smart.
And it's a chill goal, because I think that's part of why I love ultra running. Of course, some people are going to win the race. That's some people's goal. But for most of us, it's just to survive. And it's such about the long game, you know. You'll see that most professional ultra runners are in their late 20s, if not 30s. And the thinking is kind of that, you know, it takes a certain amount of mental maturity. It's not just about running fast. If anything, it's hard to run slow. You know, for runners, it's really difficult for them to slow down. But that's what you have. You know, that's how you win 100 milers is by slowing down. And I feel like this is a good lesson in that too. I mean, I've developed a really cool Tramily, and it's been hard to. Well, at times it's been hard to stay caught up with them. They're all in their 20s, and that's my biggest thru hiking badge of honor, that this geriatric 42-year-old has managed to stay with them. But it's just so fun that it's about the long game and not you know, a big burst of fast energy, because I don't have that. That's not how I do.
What have been your standout favorite moments from the PCT hike so far?
I think like a trail cultural thing. I stayed with Scout and Frodo, and this is their last year. Yeah. And that's like, since I discovered the trail, I've known who they were, and that was really cool to get to be with them. Mount Whitney was a really big day. I mean, Mount Whitney is Mount Whitney, but we slack packed it. We stayed down below and slack packed it. And that was the first time that I felt like a badass on the trail, because everyone else was struggling. Maybe it's because I've lived at altitude a bit, but I had a great day. Like, I felt amazing. I was fast for me. That was the first time on trail that I was like, not I guess that I didn't have my trail legs before then, but that was the first time that I was like, oh shit, like I'm in or close to the best shape I've probably ever been in. So that was fun. The whole Sierra is like every freaking day, just bam, bam, bam. Forester was really the day we went over Forester. Everyone was so worried because there were thunderstorms in the forecast, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, it's the Sierras. It's, you know, there's thunderstorms all the time. I wouldn't worry, and people were really panicking. So me and another person from the tramline kind of took our time. Everyone else very anxiously zoomed over. They were so stressed. But they were right. It was not just a quick thunderstorm. It was, as we went over Forester, the storm rolled in and it like persistently rained for about 3 hours all the way down Forester. But it was so freaking fun. Like we were never in danger. By the time the lightning got there, we were in a safe place. But it was such a fun day. It was definitely the most adrenaline filled day. I saw a desert tortoise and cried.
That's sweet.
I was walking through a wind farm, I don't know, somewhere down in the desert, and way off in the distance, I saw some people wearing like high-vis vests. I was like, what are they doing? And I got up there and they said, hey, do you want to see a desert tortoise? And I was like, obviously. They're like, oh, cool. Well, we're biologists. He's tagged and we were just coming to like check on him and like make sure he was doing okay. And he's great. He's good. And I was like, oh, well, thank God. And so then they left and I walked along the trail and this desert tortoise walked by. I may or may not have been very, very stoned. And I got emotional. He was so cute. I've never seen like I've never seen a tortoise like in nature. I've like seen them as pets. I've seen them in the zoo, and he was just chilling and he was so freaking cute. And I just had a real moment. My family laughs about it still.
I mean, that is a rare wildlife encounter on the PCT because I don't know if we've talked to anyone that's mentioned a desert tortoise.
I imagine tortoises and turtles like are always by water, so that seems it's not doesn't make sense to my brain.
Yeah. I had some good animal luck. I also saw a tarantula, and I saw it when it was cold, so it was not able to move. It wasn't creepy because it could barely move, but that was really cool. But no bears
yet.
There's time.
Yeah. Gun to your head, for the rest of your life, you can only do ultra running or long distance backpacking. Which do you pick and why? Chance was alarmed when I said gun to your head.
I was. I was like, what are you doing?
Why are you getting so violent right now?
It's called Fuck, Marry, Kill.
I think through hiking. And I think through hiking because I've done the ultra running thing. And I think at this point, there's an amazing trail and ultra running community. There's such a vibe there. But I feel like the through hiking community is like, there's more longevity. It's more epic in terms of like that's been the most notable thing to me is like it feels like an ultra, like a 5-month ultra marathon. Like the longevity is such a mental challenge. I think I underestimated how difficult this was going to be mentally.
Is any part of you like, oh no, in terms of it's a high commitment type of hobby in terms of time? Like you said, you have the best dog sitter at home, right?
Yep.
But is he at all worried that you're going to be doing a heck of a lot more multi-month hiking and just not being home a lot?
He is terrified.
How do those conversations go?
Yeah, no, he's super supportive. And he's outdoorsy, but like not in this kind of way. Like he would love to go backpacking, but for like one night. So he gets it and is super supportive. But at the same time, I mean, it's a huge sacrifice for everyone's like families, like people who have kids, who have less understanding spouses, who have jobs. Like I don't know how people are able to do this. Everyone makes it seem so casual and easy, but it took me 10 years to end up with the circumstances that allowed it.
There's a reason why there's a lot of 20-something-year-olds on the trail. It's like they got the least amount of roots. And
well, you mentioned that when we started was you were saying you did the PCT this year because you thought if not this year, I might never do it. So going from that kind of mindset to there could be more of these, there has to be some reprioritization of tasks in there to go from the mindset of if not this year, maybe never I'll have the time to I could do a heck of a lot more of these. Where does that time then come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would be unfair for me not to mention that like the biggest piece of the puzzle, the biggest reason why I was able to do this year is because I've ended up like with this silly quote unquote job. I mean, because I'm able to still work and do collaborations with brands and stuff while I'm on trail. And so hopefully that doesn't stop super soon. But I've always traveled a ton for work just in the last 3 years. So when we met online, like we met on one of the little homo apps and we were used to like not being together. Yeah, he was from the Czech Republic when we met and he would come for like 2 or 3 months at a time. So we're used to not being together all the time, but this was kind of a stretch. And we had just moved to Denver. I mean, honestly, I think he really quickly regretted his decision, because what he hadn't thought about was that we were moving to a new city where he knew no one, had no friends, and then I was going to disappear for 5 months.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's had a hard summer because he's just been, bored and lonely and dog sitting. So I think he'll be supportive. I think my family wants to do the CDT next summer, and I was like, I don't think I can get approval for that yet. I was like, maybe the Camino or something like that, and maybe CDT the next year. But I think I've got to refill the husband bank before he's going to be excited for me to do this again.
I know that game very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so shout out to Brooks, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the biggest things when I first, when that Dirty Dancing reel did well, and I ended up with some followers. Brooks reached out. They were starting a team of runners who were like cause-based runners who, it was basically Brooks' way of investing in making the running community more diverse and inclusive. So I was the token chubby gay one. There was a token trans one, a token indigenous one. But I don't mean to cheapen it in that way. I was really like I don't know. I feel like it's rare to see companies of that size investing in stuff like that, because there was no pressure to sell shoes. Like, that's not what it was about. So that was that was awesome. And then also, as a chubby kid who was never an athlete, to be sponsored by such a well-known like shoe brand, like, come on, my heart was like exploding out of my chest. Like, how cool. So yeah, it's been great. We're on year 3.
I was going to ask if you had tips to somebody that wanted to pursue a financial sponsorship, but it sounds like they came to you, making it pretty easy.
I think it's the hardest thing about this. Like, my day job was always in operations for tech companies, and so I really like data and predictability and planning. And there's just really, you can't. What was I saying? I just saw your whiskey and got distracted.
just general advice for somebody that wants to pursue a financial sponsorship.
Oh, right. Yeah. So all that to say, I don't love how much you have to let them come to you. It very, very rarely works that I reach out to a brand, and I do it all the time to brands that I love. I really want a Nordic Track treadmill. I'm gonna have to sell a non-essential organ in order to afford it. But yesterday I was like, you know what? I'll just send them a DM, say like, hey, like, this is on the top of my list. If you have any interest in, working together. I'll never hear from them because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I got super lucky. I had one of my best friends is a food influencer from Chicago, and she has a manager. And so when Brooks reached out, I immediately called her and I was like, I don't even know what these numbers look like. Like, they're asking for a number and I don't even know where to start. And she introduced me to her manager, and her manager ended up taking care of that contract for me. And then I've been with her ever since. So I was really lucky in that regard, because the one thing I will tell anyone who is starting to do partnerships, you probably might give the same advice. You are probably greatly undervaluing yourself. All of these partnerships, if I hadn't had a manager who was like, no, I would have enthusiastically taken 7% of what she's able to get me. And so I think if you're not working with a manager or someone, just do your research and ask for what you think you're worth.
So do they give you a number and then the manager pushes back with a bigger number, or do they say like, what's your price, and the manager sets the price? How does that work?
Well, I'm lucky, at least currently, to like be in a position to be able to say no occasionally. So my managers have set my rates pretty consistently. So it's usually a brand reaches out and asks for your rates, and they'll reply with them. Sometimes they'll say, hey, here's our budget. Like, what can we do for this? I hate that. Like, I hate the negotiation stuff. Like, it goes against everything this nice Midwestern boy was taught about politeness. So it's so nice to have somebody else taking care of that. And it's also nice for my relationship with the brands, because if things do get complicated or hairy, it wasn't me, it was my manager. So it like preserves my relationship.
What kind of cut does your manager get?
15%.
Okay.
Which is pretty, like in the entertainment industry, an agent would take probably 10 to 15%. A manager would take like 20%. The difference being an agent would represent you a little more distantly. It's like kind of like offering you auditions and stuff like that. A manager is looking at your career more holistically. Like they might be like, hey, I think we need to think about changing your look. I think, we might need to, they're thinking bigger picture, whereas an agent, you'd have like a theater agent, and that agent is just helping you get theater jobs.
So when you say you started using your Food Friends manager, there's not really a huge leap of faith that you have to do, because it's not like you're paying someone an hourly role to go find you, stuff. If you don't get paid, they
only get paid if you get paid.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, that's how I found my manager, but most management companies have a way to submit your stuff to them. And there's all different managers out there. I mean, there's management companies that won't consider anyone with less than 1 million followers. There's managers out there who would be really excited with 30,000, which is still a huge number. But I think, that was a big question when I was trying to build my audience. I didn't know what the goalpost was. And there isn't one. I mean, it also depends on a lot of other things. I know that I've been really lucky because my content isn't controversial. I don't do political content. It's all very positive and good vibey, and that's really marketable and safe for brands to hitch their wagon to.
Sure.
So I think I've been lucky in that regard. I have friends with twice as many followers as me who don't do as well, and I think it's because of that. I think it's just because they're not a right fit for as many brands, or they're risky for brands. I mean, how many times do you see celebrities, do something wild and lose all their endorsements and things, and it's a risk on the brand side to commit to somebody.
Yeah. So, Charles put you on the spot with the improv stuff. I'm gonna pull at the motivational speaker thread here, but like clearly you're a guy who goes after it in life. Like you went up to New York and pursued the theater arts. You did stand up. You did ultrarunning, you did a film about it. Now you're doing through hiking. Like clearly you're somebody that lives without fear. Somebody listening to this who has a history of talking themselves out of pursuing these things for reasons X, Y, and Z, what would you like to convey to them?
First of all, I am super fearful. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it fuels me. I get a lot out of overcoming my fears. Actually last night, once it came out of my mouth, I realized how ridiculous it was. But we were talking about watching horror films, and I was like, I haven't done it yet. But one night that I camp alone, I keep telling myself I'm gonna like watch The Shining or watch a scary movie.
Watch The Blair Witch.
Yeah. Oh no. Now that might be too far. But watch something like that. And it's because I know I'm gonna be scared shitless. I know I'm not gonna sleep that night, but I get something out of like experiencing that because I know it's safe. Same with like flying. Like I love flying, but to be honest, I'm a little bit scared of it. But that's what like. I think I'm an adrenaline junkie, as a lot of our types are, aren't we?
No.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid of everything.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of activities I don't pursue, like climbing. Like I have no interest because it's like I just don't like the exposure and the heights.
Yeah, I don't like. I can be really cut and dried about things too. Like I have no interest in like climbing or being high. I don't like heights. So that's not a fear that's like fun for me to overcome. And I don't know why that's different, but it is for some reason.
Same for me. Yeah.
But yeah, I think embrace the fear. Like if you're scared of it, it means it's important to you. It means it's impactful. I think also like it's a little cliche, but like knowing your why and like why you're doing it. Like it has to be, if it's something like this, it has to be really good. It has to be something that's going to sustain you. It can't be like, oh, I want a physical challenge, or, like my film, again, I said the filmmaking process was the harder marathon of the two. so many brick walls that we came up against so many times. Like there just was not a way to get the film finished. And I figured it out. And it was because it was so close to my heart. Like, I mean, the whole point of the film was to honor my mom. If I had like quit, come on, like the guilt would have consumed me.
Totally.
So because I had such a like strong why, it got done, but it wouldn't have if it was anything flimsier than like disappointing my mom who had just passed away.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have gotten it done. So I think like really figuring out why is super important too.
We're definitely in lockstep there. Yeah. Finding your why was the thing that got me across the AT, and that's been my mantra ever since. I didn't have as profound of reason as you did with your ultra running, but yeah,
it gets you there. That's
it definitely gets you
all
there.
That matters.
Yeah.
I would be interested. I know that you're supposed to be asking the questions, but my turn. We've been talking a lot. Like I think since we finished the Sierras, like right after like the last 2 weeks of the Sierras, half of our family left trail. One person had already planned to leave trail. One person got into grad school, very exciting, but unexpectedly, and so needed to leave. But then a few people they were just done. They were finished. And we're all feeling that too. Like I have no desire to quit, but it's mentally gotten really hard. Like I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think we're past the excitement of the Sierras. Then I was off trail with my back, and this has been beautiful, but we're in a lot of tree tunnel. And like our spirits are all sunk. None of us want to quit. We're not there. Mm-hmm. But does it matter what trail you're on? Is that just like part of the journey?
For me personally, with a long distance backpacking trip like the PCT or the AT, there's definitely a period where your enthusiasm wanes. It's the death of the honeymoon, and a lot of that is codependent upon the specific landscape that you're on. Like very few people quit in the Sierra. Maybe like in a high snow year, it's a different story. But like when every day is a postcard, it's your enthusiasm for the thing is strong. Mm-hmm. And then you come out of that, whether you're going northbound into Northern California or southbound back into the desert, and like all of a sudden it's just way less interesting. That's a period where a lot of people quit for, I think, obvious reasons. So yeah, I think that's part of the journey. And as to whether that's your cue to throw in the towel or not, you just really have to know yourself, because I'm exposed to so many thru hikers with what I do here at the Trek, and a very solid percentage of people that end up quitting regret it, and they go back out and they try again the next year or some number of years later, which, maybe their drive on the second go round is usually much stronger because they've gone through the lull and they realize that lull is not their cue to quit, because they know what the feeling of quitting feels like and they don't like it. For other people, they go on to the next chapter of their life and they had a great lash and like they look back at their hike fondly and they don't have the desire to do it. So it's like a really individual thing. Mm-hmm. For me personally, I went on to the AT. We're talking about our why. One of the strong whys for me is just like I had a history of quitting a lot of shit, and that was something that I just was starting to think of myself personally. Like I'm a person who quits things, and I wanted the AT to be an experience like, no, I get shit done. So like there was a long stretch of the AT where it sucked for me. I was sick, but at no point on the trail did I consider quitting, because I was trying to get past being the person that quits at things. So yeah, I don't even remember exactly what the question was, but I think the lull that you're describing is very common, especially for an ultra long backpacking trip like this. And as to whether that's the cue to throw in the towel or not is just really individually specific.
It feels like the 60 to 70 mile point in an ultra marathon. For me, it's a double whammy, because number one, distance wise, you don't yet see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're just miserable. I'm also slower. So when I hit like mile 80, the sun is coming up, and they're like that whole, like, it's really shocking what sunrise does for your spirits in an ultra. But I kind of feel like I'm in the, I feel like in a week I'm going to see the light at the end of the tunnel and everything's going to change.
Yeah. So I was going to, a different approach from what Zach took with the answer, because I think he gave more of a big picture. For me, I've had moments that you're talking about that I can pinpoint. On the PCT, it was flipping past the Sierra when I got to Belden. It took me 3 days to get up the climb out of Belden, which is a 13-mile climb. Why did it take 3 days? And it's because I didn't want to get out of my tent. I was like, I just don't feel like doing it today. So I sat in my tent and I ate Oreos for 3 days before I finally like kept going. Same thing happened in Oregon. I was sick of walking on lava rocks and my feet hurt, and it was just like, I cannot fathom waking up every day and doing this shit. On the AT, it was Shenandoah. I started doing 8-mile days because I was just like, I hate this. And it was New York because I was so close to home and I was slack packing while sleeping in my bed every night that it was just like, I don't want to. And those are really hard parts of the trail to get out of mindset wise, because it feels like you're just getting dragged further and further into this mindset of like every day is harder than the one before. So math should say that at some point, like it has to be so hard that you can't. And I think 2 things that are helpful for me at least. One is getting out of the area you're in. So having that mindset of, instead of things getting like today was worse than yesterday and that was worse than the day before and I want to hike less today than I did yesterday, math should say that at some point you hit 0, right? At some point I don't hike at all. At some point I just don't want to leave my tent. But in actuality, what ends up happening is if you can keep, in actuality, if you can just keep doing a little bit each one of these days and you can get far enough past whatever, it's one of those change your circumstance type things, right? Like if you try to quit something and let's say you're trying to quit drinking and it's like, okay, change your environment. So don't go to places that make you want to do that thing. If you want to quit, for me, like during Shenandoah or during New York, during those areas where I just didn't want to be doing it anymore, what helped was changing my environment, getting out of Shenandoah, getting out of that New York region. And once I got through Connecticut, I was great again. I was perfectly back in it. Once I got out of Oregon, I was perfectly back in it for Washington. Once I got out of that Belden area. And so letting yourself do little enough, which is why in Shenandoah I was okay with doing those 8 miles, was it's not about crushing it right now. It's about doing little enough to get past this vibe that seems to be choking me right now. And if I can just do enough to get out of this area, once the scenery changes, once the environment changes, once the group of people hiking around me changes enough, I'm going to get back into it. And the second part of that I also think they play really well together is something I do with work, which is, love this. It's a trend called Bare Minimum Mondays. And basically the concept is like people get like the Sunday scaries a lot on the weekend. And I was finding that I was getting the Sunday scaries a lot. And it's because you're afraid to go to work on Monday because you just don't want to have to do it. You don't want the work week to start. And the concept of Bare Minimum Monday is if you go into Monday expecting yourself to just do the bare minimum, Sunday's not as scary. And so
I love that.
Yeah. And like, is it the most productive to do the bare minimum on Monday at work? Probably not. But if it gives you the right mindset to make it through the week with a better attitude, net, you're actually getting more done. And so that was kind of the mindset I had in Shenandoah with the 8-mile days, was we're doing bare minimum Mondays until we're in a different environment where it doesn't feel as painful to have to go through it each day. You just bare minimum Mondaying it until you have changed your circumstances enough where you get through that funk.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm excited to talk about this stuff because I feel like, at least the media I consumed about the trail, I don't feel like I see a lot of people talk about this kind of stuff. I see a lot of epic shots. I see a lot of how lovely the Sierras were. Again, I'm blinking on her name, but same girl from that episode. Like, she talked about like just forcing herself to get the camera out and like film herself having a mental breakdown on the trail. This is a little unexpected for me. I was like, I don't do this, but I do stuff like this all the time. Like, that's not going to happen to me. But yeah, it is. Maybe it's unavoidable.
There's a reason why a very high percentage of people quit on this stuff. Yeah. And people will cite injury, money, this, that, or the other. But and I'm sure in a lot of those instances that is true. But I think if the drive was stronger, they would find a way to overcome those problems. It's like, yeah, it just loses its luster at a certain point for most people.
I guess it just depends on the person, but I think I'm feeling the same way as a lot of people who have gotten off trail, but just getting off trail is not my solution. I don't necessarily know what the solution is, but that's not at least yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
You may hear tomorrow, oh yeah, how's Jeffrey? I don't know. He's in Denver.
Halfway back to Denver.
Having a Detroit style
Try
pizza.
bare minimum Monday.
Yeah, love that.
Until you get to like, maybe it's getting out of Oregon, or maybe it's just getting into a different like whatever it looks like on trail when you get into a different area, but try just going into it with the mindset of the goal today isn't to do a 30. The goal today is to do the bare minimum. And like, that's it.
I've ended up way more terrified than expected to leave my tramily.
Yeah.
The first 6 weeks, I was like worried that I maybe was turning into a jaded asshole because I kept meeting people on trail and enjoying the conversations, but also leaving them thinking, yeah, I don't want to hike. I don't want to hike with them for the next 4 months. And then I met a group of people that like it clicked, and now I'm so hesitant to be alone again. So I'm trying to keep up with them, and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe I need to be a little bit more okay with just doing my own thing, and like it's okay if I don't do 25 miles. And
yeah, there's no one size fits all answer there because for some people trying to hike somebody else's hike is the thing that breaks them, and then for some people hiking by yourself and losing that social camaraderie is the thing that breaks them. So I guess it's just like looking in the mirror and saying which scenario is worse for you. For me personally, I would way rather not hike at somebody else's pace, but I'm one person.
Yeah, I think on the PCT and the AT, I had a very interesting realization, which is on the PCT, I was the same way. And on the AT, I was on the same way. Like, you meet a group of people you like, you don't want to leave them. That's just, it doesn't make sense to want that, right? You want to stay with them. And on the PCT, I was killing myself every day to keep up with this group that I was hiking with because I didn't want to leave them. And like, I had FOMO. Like, what if like I was just like, I'm by myself and they're still having all this fun and I'm not there? And it was at the point where I was waking up 2 hours before people to start hiking early, to be able to make 10 minutes of the lunch break, to be able to get to camp after dark set, to camp with them. And on the AT, there was someone that was hiking with us that was doing the same thing. I was in the best shape of my life on the AT. So I like, non-humble brag, I was hiking great on the first half of that trail because that's not something I ever get to brag about. But from that perspective, I was leaving camp later. I was staying the whole lunch break. I was getting to camp as one of the first people and like there for all of the times with this group. And I witnessed the person in the group who was leaving earlier, staying for 10 minutes of lunch and getting to places later. And I saw me on the PCT in this person because that was me in that trail group that I was just clinging on to because I felt like I can't fathom not being with them. And I saw how much this person missed out from the times that we were having when they weren't with us. And it was such an interesting perspective to almost watch myself from, where it was like, as much fun as I was having, I was still missing so much by not being with a group that matched the pace that I wanted to be at. And what if I had just waited until a group that was at my pace had come along and then had that experience I had on the AT where I felt like everything like was actually on the same page with when my breaks were timed. And it just was such a different experience that I think I almost held myself back from out of fear. And it's hard to see that when, like you're saying, you're in the middle of it because all you know is the group you're with. And it's such a risk to be like, well, more hikers will come. But I think seeing the person that was me in that outside perspective really was eye-opening to be like, wow, like as much as I thought I was there for so much, I actually was not there for a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Every night I get to camp and like the decisions have been made for the next day. It's not their fault. It's like,
no.
Not that anything should happen, but yeah, it's like my options are what they're doing or my own thing.
Yeah.
How much of the trail have you spent doing your own thing?
I met them about 6 weeks in. And then I would say since I had to get off trail in Tahoe, I've done my own thing, but at least slightly more than half the trail I've not been doing my own thing.
Yeah. How much do you enjoy the times where you're kind of marching to the beat of your own drum?
So it's mixed. I mean, like there's a lot of things I love about doing my own thing and camping alone, but I think I equally love the social aspects.
Yeah.
I came into the trail expecting to be way more antisocial than I was. And then I met this group and now I'm like weirdly like attached to them. And so I think that's been a surprise for me because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Do you think that because you weren't expecting it, maybe there's a part of you that thinks that can't be recreated? Like you can't find another group that would have that?
For sure. Like I know every Tramley special, everyone clicks, but like we're pretty pretty tight. Like I fully expect almost all of us to be friends for as most tramlies are. But yeah, I mean, I've met others. I've spent time with other tramlies that I know I wouldn't enjoy as much. So yeah, I think for me, I see the options as keeping up with them or being alone. And I think you make a really good point. Like, there are other people in the trail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is harder later in a trail because at least what we were noticing in Washington was it felt like groups were more closed off by that time. Like
super cliquey, not in like in a bad way, but it's just they've spent so much time together. I mean, even when I came into this tramily 6 weeks into it, like there's so much that they experienced together that I wasn't a part of, and even meeting them that early, there's times when I feel super like out of the loop. So yeah.
I think people have less energy to make new friends. Like in the beginning, everyone's excited and it's new and you all want to talk to each other. And I think what we noticed in Washington was it would be like a group seeing a group, and it's just like the nods, right? Like no one has time for the when did you start type conversations. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, if you would humor us and grab one of these balls right here. This is our Kumo question.
Okay,
usually
balls.
It's in a Gossamer Gear Kumo.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gossamer Gear. Use code SNUGGLEBUG for 20% off their shelters at gossamergear.com.
This one feels right. Do I open it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what's in here?
A question.
Your Kumo question. A very important, well thought out, deep philosophical question.
Oh.
That's good luck.
That is good luck.
What does that mean? I feel like it has to stay in there.
You have to finish your drink.
Yeah, you have to drink your question out of there. The question fell into the scotch.
Do I read it?
Yeah.
What is the most boring superpower you can think of?
Ooh.
Being able to put my socks on without having to do anything, like just flying my socks onto my feet. It's like super sock boy. I can put yours on for you ttoo.
Yeah, love that. What's your superhero name?
Oh, I don't know. Magic Sock Man. MSM. You've heard of him. What would yours be?
My most boring superpower? I feel like you have implanted in my brain now. I feel like I'm on a similar thread with things, but what's a menial task that I want to get rid of?
Is this a power you have, or is this like, obviously you can't just wish your socks on, but like, are you thinking like, what is my superpower that's really boring, or what would I choose as a...
Oh, I was thinking like superhero superpower.
Yeah, that was my interpretation.
I'm just thinking my answer.
Yeah. Well, if it was not that, like not a superpower, it would probably like Lewis and Clark knowledge. I know a lot about Lewis and Clark, which is extra top of mind right now because of where we are.
Yeah.
If you weren't aware, they right along the other side of the river was their route.
This is a boring superpower, but a superpower that I want. Maybe I'm hinting at my next hire, but somebody that handles everything financial in my life. I hate dealing with bills, payments, budgets, all that stuff sucks. So yeah, I need an accountant, I think is what I just came to.
Where should they send their resumes?
Yeah, exactly. Zach@thetrek.co. That'll definitely be a hire, hopefully here in the next couple of years.
And yours?
If I'm not thinking about things that I would want or possess, like I've always been really bored by Ant-Man. I just think like the ability to shrink really small just seems like going everywhere slower, and like spending an hour getting from that wall to that wall. I don't see the real joy of it, and you can get really small to like go places where it's really dusty.
So you wouldn't go in people's pee holes?
No.
Oh.
And like, it's like what?
There's
what
a show that's a reference.
Oh, okay. I thought that
callback.
I thought that was a random contribution from you. And I was like, well, that's specific.
We try to keep
There's a show
inside.
called The Boys where that is actually a thing that happened, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like it. I feel like you get really small to like go under a couch cushion, and then you're there with like an old Cheeto. It just doesn't seem like a cool superpower.
But it is like invisibility adjacent. Like you could shrink yourself so small that you're essentially invisible.
True, but then it's also dangerous because the amount of things that can accidentally kill you and like fall on you and hurt you.
Yeah, she's
right. You're so fragile.
This is the entire plot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Right. It's you're so flat and you're so fragile.
Yeah.
And not fast moving, and just like then you got to make sure you're in the right space to get big again, because if you're under the couch and you get big again, you're gonna hurt yourself. it's not practical.
Tell us about your Trova trip, your upcoming Trova trip.
Oh, well, I only have one and it's not announced yet.
I saw it on your website, I thought.
Oh, which one? I think they're closed. Trips. Oh, they're past trips.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was a travel with me.
Unless I haven't updated
Is Portugal?
Oh, yeah, it's not available anymore.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So there's one more getting ready to be announced, and it will be great for people who have never camped before. It's in a really pretty place in Canada. And it's like a beginner backpacking or not backpacking, camping trip.
Sweet.
Yeah, I've done a couple of that variety and it's so fun. Most of my audience are not outdoorsy people. The people who follow me are people who want to be outdoorsy and like want to like get into this kind of stuff. Nobody who knows what they're doing for the most part follows me. So it's so fun to see people who are just terrified. People are so anxious to go camping for their first time. It's really fun to be part of like exposing them to that for the first time.
Yeah.
And these trips are a great way to do it because everything's provided. Like they cook for you, everything except for your sleeping bag and pillow is provided for you. It's a very like comfortable way to experience outdoors for the first time.
Hell yeah.
It's Banff. I don't know why I'm being so vague.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty strong selling point for people that are familiar with the area. Okay, so in addition to following you at Jeffrey Binney on Instagram, where should people go to keep up with you?
Just launched a YouTube channel this last year, and the PCT videos should start posting in the next like month or so.
Are you doing all the editing?
No. I luckily have an editor, so he's working on it. We also did a trip to Iceland this winter. Oh. The whole point of it was we were hoping to see the Northern Lights, and did not have any luck. But it's Iceland's epic, even without the Northern Lights. Yeah. So anyway, those videos are posting right now, and then PCT after that. YouTube's hard. Yeah. I just launched the channel this last year, and it's hard. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, we're bad at it.
Yeah,
but we're trying.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do, right?
Yeah. Well, Jeffrey, aka Arson, this has been a ton of fun. You are a very inspiring individual. I've pursued a lot of different paths, and very grateful for your time here with us on Backpacker Radio.
Yo, thanks for having me. So good to meet you. After hearing your voices for so long.
To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. I promise your part's coming here shortly. We'll get to that in a second. We'll give you the full context. I'll keep this short for that reason. Today's Trek propaganda, I want to feature a beautiful post by our editor, Kelly Floro. This is something that was top of mind for me. I suggested this post, and she executed on it brilliantly. This was when Denver had the worst air quality in, I think, the United States and maybe the world, but it looked like Hellscape 3.0. The title of this one is "It's Safe to Keep Hiking in Wildfire Smoke." Probably very relevant for you this year as well. I'll let you guys check out the post yourselves, but the gist is if the AQI, which is the air quality index, is somewhere in the 51 to 150 range, which is a broad range, the takeaways maybe don't hike today. And if it's above 150, the answer is definitely don't hike. There's a lot of considerations to make here, including like what your pre-existing conditions are. But again, I want you guys to read the full context in the article. Okay. We just lured a very random hiker off the street. We were crossing paths, and Chance approached our new friend here, who is...
Hi, I'm Clumsy.
Clumsy. What's the origin behind the trail name?
So when I first started the trail, I honestly just had like no idea what I was doing. I had like 3 weeks to prepare for the trail, and it really showed. So the first inkling of Clumsy was right before Paradise Valley Cafe, and I had the unfortunate incident of twisting my ankle on a rock, which led to a sprain, and I had to hike 5 miles on my sprained ankle with my then 60-pound backpack to a road. I had Garmined my mother, and she called Paradise Valley Cafe, and they just so happened to dispatch the police to come find me. There was a helicopter involved that was looking for me, and all I could think was just like, holy shit, is that for me? And just, oh my God, is this gonna be expensive? And it was not, because it was the police. Like, they didn't make me pay anything, but you know, he drove me to Paradise Valley, and all my friends who were way faster than me at the time, they come into Paradise Valley and they're just like, oh my God, you're here. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And then 2 of my other friends ended up injuring themselves that day as well. And that was right before a snowstorm. So we all bumped up to Idlewild, and we just like all healed for the week. After Idlewild, we went back down to Paradise Valley and we began hiking for San Jacinto. And I had no back pain. Sorry. You cut that out, but I stumbled.
No, you're good. We stumble over ourselves all the time as part of it. And then you can say whatever you want. Fuck,
Note
shit,
the beginning
piss.
when you made fun of it. Very informal.
Okay, cool. So we started over San Jacinto, and I'd never used my ice axe before, and we were going to go do Apache Peak. So we spent like 20 minutes practicing with the ice axes before we started, going around. And that day I had to self-arrest twice with my ice axe. The first time it happened, it was actually like not really a real self-arrest. The ice axe went into the snow and I was holding on by the leash, and I was like maybe 5 feet away from just like scissoring a tree.
Is that the technical term for? Because I can picture what you're describing. I've never heard of that described though.
Yeah, I kind of came up with it like 2 months ago. Yeah. Just like describe what was going on.
You painted the picture perfectly. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and so I had some friends that had just finished the traverse, or like some people. I was in Big Tramley at the time. Some people who were before, and all I could think as I'm like holding on to this leash, just like trying to like get myself in the snow, and I was just like, I need a picture of this. So I just shouted, just somebody take a picture right fucking now. And it's probably one of my favorite pictures on the trail. It's definitely on my Tinder.
Have you been Tinding your way up the trail?
I actually have a story about that from a Hinge date.
We'll come back to it. I want to hear the more clumsy stories.
Okay. So after I was able to get myself up, we had a couple more traverses, and I had to self-rest twice. I had to self-rest again. Did it like the proper way this time. And then we got out of the snow, and I tripped and I ripped a gash in my $60 tent footprint because I didn't have Tyvek at the time because I didn't know to do that. And it's now covered in duct tape, but so I was just like, okay, don't cry. And I'm hiking and I trip again. And this time I hit my face on a rock and I broke my sunglasses. And, I just got up, put the sunglasses in my pocket, just like, man, I really want to get to camp. And, I'm going up these switchbacks, and my friend Lockie, he like pops his head out from behind a rock and he's like, oh, Kelsey, we were just talking about how badass you are, as I'm just like holding on by a thread. And the only thing that came out of my mouth was just like, I just start bawling like Kim Kardashian, ugly crying in front of all of my friends. And they're just like being so nice and like consoling me. And they're just like, we're almost to camp. It's only 5 more miles. And I'm like, okay, And then the next day, we had come by Strawberry Creek right after San Jacinto. And I put my backpack down for water because we had been boiling snow to get our water, and I scorched my toques pot, of course, because I didn't know anything. So put my backpack down, and my friend Vibes asked me what time it was, and so I turn around, and as I'm turning around, my knee hits my backpack. And my backpack just starts flying down this ridge, and shit's flying everywhere. Like, my toilet paper bag, my trowel, my sunscreen's just everywhere. And the backpack just so ended up having to end up in the stream. So, I had to slide down this like ridge to go pick it up. And it's just sopping wet. I'm picking up my stuff as I'm crawling back up to the trail. And they're all just laughing at that point. And one of my friends was just like, you're really clumsy, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty clumsy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is definitely, when enough things happen to point all in the same direction, that is a deserving trail name.
It was well earned.
Were you clumsy prior to trail?
Honestly, I don't think so. But then I started telling my friends my trail name, and they're like, "Yeah, that checks."
Okay.
So,
you just weren't aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm like hyper aware of my clumsiness. Like I just like drop everything, and like I trip all the time. Like I just kind of like launch myself every time I hit a route. Like it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to actually hike those 5 feet because I stumbled them. And, like,
so the land glissading.
Yeah. Oh my god, glissading is my least favorite. It was my least favorite. Yeah.
The 3 big spills. That was all one day.
Yeah.
You were to self-arrest twice, and then you broke your sunglasses?
And ripped my 10 footprint in one day.
Was the idea of quitting the trail on your mind at that point?
Kind of. Like, the thing about the trail is, like, the only time I really thought about quitting was in, like, Tahoe, because I was just really tired from the Sierra. But I just kind of felt like it was stuff that happens on the trail. And as much as it sucked at the time, like I felt like I really tried to, have a laugh about it. So
yeah, good. These are the stories you're going to look back on so fondly when you're on the other side of your thru hike. So
I know
that's fun. Before we get to the segments, you hinted toward Tindering your way up the trail.
Well, you also mentioned Hinge. So you've mentioned Hinge and Tinder.
So the picture of me self-arresting is not on my it's not on my Hinge, but it's on my Tinder.
Let me see your Tinder.
Okay.
Are you trying to because I had people when I was on the PCT, boys that were trying to find places to crash in towns via Tinder. Is that what you tried to do?
Via Hinge.
And with success?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay. So, so I think I was near like Wrightwood when I like opened up my Hinge for like the second time on trail, because you're just like in the woods all the time, no service. And there was this really cute guy who lived in an ambulance, and he's 6'6" with a beard. Okay. Like that's my weakness. That's every girl's weakness.
I was going to say that. Sounds...
and so he like, so he liked my Hinge profile, and it was like, oh, like, are you at Deep Creek? Because I'm at Deep Creek, and this was from like a few weeks ago, right around the time that I was at Deep Creek Hot Springs. And I'm like huge, like, I'm a hot spring slut. What can I say? I love I used to live in Idaho, so many hot springs there, so many wonderful hot springs. And so, he liked me, I liked him back, and we started talking, and we like agreed to meet up around Walker Pass, because he said that he knew. Oh yeah, there's the picture.
That's very funny. And a steep slope. I'm glad you had your eyesight.
Yeah, me too. But I was really happy I didn't shit my pants, to be honest. So he came and picked me up around Walker Pass, and I messaged him, and I was like, hey, just so you know, I haven't showered in 6 days, so like, please excuse my smell. And he was like, oh, that's okay, you can take a shower in my ambulance. And I was like, okay, cool. So he, picked me up, and he brought a bunch of Coors Banquets, which was my favorite beer.
What did you call them?
Cocoa Bankies.
Cocoa Bankies. We got to adopt that.
Yeah. So the way that Cocoa Bankies started was because I started calling them Coors Bankies. And then my friend Critter was like, Cocoa Banky, you got to make it sound like French. And I'm like, okay. And then it just kind of stuck, and now like everyone in my family calls them Cocoa Bankies.
They sound more really appealing than they've ever sounded before. Yeah. Like, do I want one? I've never wanted one. I kind of want one. They've got
class now.
Yeah.
Coors Banquets for the cowboys and Cocoa Bankies for the girls.
I love that.
So this guy comes and picks me up in Walker Pass, and I know I smell like shit. And he's like, no, I don't smell you. And he just like immediately rolls down the windows.
I'm trying to not smell you.
Starts gagging.
And I'm like, you liar. So we like drive out to this hot spring near Lake Isabella, and he was like so nice. Like he carried all the beers and like that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I can't get into this hot spring when I've got like visible dirt on my legs. So I jumped into the river first and like gave myself like a
pre-shower shower.
Yeah. And then, we hung out in the hot spring for a bit, and then we like went back up to his ambulance, and and he was like, oh, like,
and started the sirens.
Wait, did you have sex on the ambulance bed?
Yeah. Yes. wasn't gonna say that because I don't know if my mom's gonna listen to this, but yeah. So
this is great.
I love this.
So he was like, "Oh, but do you want the shower?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I want the shower." Like,
there's a shower in the ambulance?
No. So that's the best part. So he was like, "Yeah, I filled up before I picked you up." And this guy opens up the cupboard and he pulls out 2-gallon milk jugs of water. And he just starts like warming up the water.
Hosing you down?
Basically. So like, you know, he's so I was like, all right. And I'm like in my swimsuit, which is basically just like my underwear.
Yeah, I'm a shaggy dog.
Yeah. And he just starts pouring this gallon jug of water on me, and I'm like using his soap. You know, I'm trying to like, you know, do the best that I can because that's all you can do as a dirty girl. You know,
the best you can. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I was just like, hey man, like you need to close your eyes. Like I gotta wash my vagina. And it's probably the weirdest thing I've ever said in a first date. Yeah, so then, you know, I'm clean-ish, you know, and I've never gotten a milk jug bath before, but I mean, there's a first time for everything. And so as I'm like drying myself off, he's like, I don't want your clothes in the van. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fair. So he's like, this is my softest shirt, and like these are my softest short. I'm like, oh my god, like this guy's definitely getting his willy sucked later. And after I'm like getting dressed, he's like, oh, I hope you're hungry, and he like made me a quesadilla.
In an ambulance?
In an ambulance. He's got like
where do they?
Well, because it's like a built out van life ambulance, so he's got like a little like stove in there with like a propane tank.
Do you know that this is like a van ambulance, or from the outside does it just look like an ambulance?
It just looks like an ambulance, but it was like a vambulance.
If you got picked up by an ambulance that you thought was an ambulance and you get in and it's like some dude's
I've
van.
I've been picked up by an ambulance before. It didn't end with my willy getting sucked.
Wasn't the right kind of van.
It was the wrong vibe, apparently. I picked the wrong ambulance. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, maybe a quesadilla. Then we started watching Baby Reindeer, which is like the show about like the woman who's like stalking the guy in like London. And, you know, and then, you know, we started doing things and he's just like, can I go down on you? Sure.
We love a guy that seeks consent.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't know if you want to go down there, dude. Like, this is like a milk jug bath washed vagina.
Hey, did you not remember you told me I had to leave my clothes outside?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, please clip that.
What?
No, just the milk jug washed vagina is a very funny laugh. That's going to be the clip for sure.
Yeah, so then, you know, by the way, he was fantastic. Like, like I was like, hell yeah, I needed this. And then, anyways.
I digress.
So yeah, then like in the morning, like, you know, he was like, yeah, so I gotta like, you know, I gotta like work because he works from home.
Go pick up a sick dude.
Yeah. Right. So I just like chill in the hospital all day. We was working, and then after like, you know, he's done working, he's like, I got like this presentation to work on, so I gotta like drop you off. Where do you want to get dropped off? We're like 50 miles from Kenny Meadows South, but I wanted to walk into Kenny Meadows South because, you know, you get like clapped for and everything.
It's a vibe.
And then also we had this like thing going on in our tramley where it's like the last person to touch the Kenny Meadows sign has to buy everyone else beer. So it's like, that's not gonna be me. So he like yellow blazed me like 30 miles up the trail. And then I like didn't have to hike those 30 miles, which I was really stoked about because I was really tired of the desert at that point. So yeah, I got a hike into Kenny Meadows the next day. Got a bunch of free beers, saw some friends.
Got your badge licked.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's my story about the ambulance escapade. The most hiker trash thing I've ever done in my only hobosexual. My only hobosexual experience.
Yeah, you've got all the good terminology.
Yeah.
Coco Banky's a homosexual. Jug wash vagina.
Milk jug wash.
Milk jug wash. Yeah, I got to be very particular about it. Well, shit. Now the segments are going to be very boring compared to that story.
Well, you missed the best part of her Tinder profile. She's a freaking pilot for Frontier.
Whoa. Shh. Yeah, we can cut that part.
She's a pilot for Beep.
Yeah, my real job is like a pilot. So they called me and they're like, yeah, you're not going to start for another 6 months. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go hike the PCT.
Hell yeah.
And that's why I started with only 3 weeks notice.
Yeah.
So, but please clip that because I don't want them to know.
That was probably more information.
No, you're good.
Probably bleep the name of the airline.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we do have to do segments, but they are going to be boring compared to that. That was an all-timer. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here all day, guys.
Yeah, please. Okay. The question of the day you have to do because this is yours and I don't understand.
Yes. It's weird that you don't understand, but
don't.
I don't even know how to explain this to you. Certain numbers have certain colors associated to them with your brain. Like if you think of a certain number,
like a color of the number,
like a single digit number, like a 1 through 9.
Color by the number, I should say.
Like if I said 3, your brain should instantly think of a certain color.
Okay.
Or like 4, you think of a different color.
Okay.
Like there's just colors that your brain thinks of when it thinks of certain numbers. Do you agree or disagree?
I don't know. Well, I'm willing to test the theory though.
Okay,
Yeah.
if I say the number 3, what color does your brain think of?
Maybe orange.
Interesting. My brain thinks.
Was that
blue.
the correct answer?
There's no correct answer.
Oh, okay.
It's just like my brain thinks of blue.
Okay.
What about 4?
Turquoise.
It's green for me. What about for you?
I was gonna say red, but that's because I only can think of 4 from Divergent.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, so you liked the upcoming question of the day about the days of the week, which I'm not going to spoil, but that's the same mind process where it's like your brain is associating things with things.
For me, that's a much more quantitative, analytical question. This one is outside the lines, but I hate it.
I'm going to give you 2 together because these 2 are the same color for me.
Okay.
5 and 8.
Purple.
Oh, no, orange. Obviously.
What about 1?
But you said that very quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like 1's white.
I think 1's yellow.
Oh, okay. See, you guys have answers to these.
Yeah.
You're picking up on this. What's 1 to you?
Does it have to be 1 through 9?
No.
436.
It's a little harder. I would say let's stick to single digits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 1 through 9 then?
Well, no, you could also toss in 0.
-4.
That's not how this works. But I would say purple for that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, I still hate that, but thank you for introducing it.
Okay.
I do like it because it's silly, but
I feel like people listening will understand.
Usually people side with you on everything, so yeah you're right.
Except for you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And Rachel.
The 2 that matter. All right.
You say your listeners don't matter?
No, I'm saying
you heard it here
in the
first, guys.
in the context of the podcasting sphere.
Zach does not appreciate you, but I do.
Yeah, this is just a parlay from the Patreon episode, which will be the death of us.
Yeah, mainly me.
Okay. This is the triple crown of reoccurring dream themes. Probably doesn't need too much introduction, but I guess you could go stereotypical dream themes because you hear other people talk about their dream themes. But I think for this to be interesting, we have to keep it personal. We don't have to, but that would be the recommendation.
Okay, I'll start. I have had, not recently, but for about 3 years before getting Harper, I had reoccurring dreams about having a husky named Milkshake. This was all still allergic to dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It was a husky, and I wasn't allergic to it specifically, and its name was Milkshake, and we would go on adventures together. And it would come back multiple times, night after night. And I was at the point where I was getting excited to go to sleep, which is always a little worrying, in a mental health kind of way. You don't want to be excited for that part of the day.
This is the only part of the day I like.
Stoked. I was like, guys, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I've got plans.
I feel like it's healthy on a through hike though. Just be like, fuck yeah. Bed.
Problem is I wasn't through hiking. It was just life. But I would be like, gotta go. I've got plans. I'd go to sleep and Milkshake would come back and we'd go on all kinds of adventures and it was great.
Were you lucid in these dreams?
No. I don't like becoming lucid in a dream because once I know it's a dream, it kind of takes the fun out of it because I try to approach things from a realistic mindset, and I end up waking myself up. So if I start to realize that I'm having a dream, I immediately start to stop trying to realize that.
This is some Inception level stuff. Being aware that you're dreaming without actually allowing yourself to dive into the awareness.
Yeah, you just choose not to.
Yeah. Okay.
So Milkshake, Husky Dreams.
And you chose not to name Harper Milkshake?
No, because Milkshake was specifically a Husky, and I was going to get a Husky for the longest time, but when COVID hit and all my check boxes for getting a dog lined up, the one that made the most practical sense was Australian Shepherd for my needs, and I just couldn't do that.
For your needs.
I just couldn't do that to Milkshake.
Yeah. Does Harper bring the boys to the yard?
Yeah, she loves men.
Yeah.
She loves men.
Good.
And it's really annoying because she likes them more than me, but she loves men.
She likes men more than you?
She just loves men in general.
Okay.
Like, we take her to the local dive bar because they allow dogs, and she will get in booths with men and just like she like full on makes out with them. She is.
Do you think she's drawn to their scent?
I don't know what it is, but they love her back.
Yeah.
She's beautiful, obviously, but yeah.
She's beautiful, obviously. Yeah, good.
Yeah, so Milkshake, that's my number one.
Clumsy, you're next.
So, being the big like nerd that I am, one of the recurring dreams that I've been having on trail is that I'm still in college, and I forgot that I have like a math class, and I just keep like skipping this math class and like not knowing that I like have this math class. And it's the day of the final, and I just like don't know fucking anything that's going on, and I fail the test, and I wake up and like my heart's fucking racing and shit, and like I don't know. That's the problem with growing up, like being a big nerd and like what's the word, teacher's pet. You know, it's just like, oh my god, my math test. You know.
I think the test anxiety is actually a very common theme for people. I've never once experienced that, but I've heard that one a lot about people like showing up late for a test and being anxious about it.
Yeah.
I've never had that one.
But like I'm 25 now. Like I feel like like I shouldn't be. I graduated like 4 years ago.
Yeah, you should have shed that skin.
I know.
You don't ever have to take another test.
I know. Hopefully.
Okay. The first one I'm going to do is like Chance. I didn't know this was a thing until I experienced it recently. Is a reoccurring series of a theme. So you kept going back to Milkshake, the dog.
Yeah.
I kept going back to like this Paradise Island, which was specifically north of Alaska. Like the same place. There was like a little bar like right off the coast. Or like legitimately I was at like a Jimmy Buffett concert all the time. But there was like different areas. It was almost like Sim City, on a smaller scale, Sim Town, I guess, where I kept revisiting the same town north of Alaska, but somehow a tropical paradise. And this only existed for like maybe a week and a half. I had the dream 4 or 5 times, but I would go back to the same place and just different spots in the town each time. And it was so awesome. Like there was nothing stressful. It was like I died and went to heaven.
Was there anything...
There's nothing significant.
In
nothing translated to what was happening in my life, at least not that I'm aware of. Probably something subconsciously, like I need a vacation. But no, there was honestly like nothing on the nose about like, yeah, this is directly tied to that. Like I literally have no idea what it was. But like for a few nights in a row, I just would go back to this general area and it'd be like, it was cool. It was great. I want to go back. I haven't been back there in a while and I miss it.
You are such a stereotypical dad at this point. The Jimmy Buffett margarita dream.
Yeah. I don't remember other people being there. I just remember being in the area and it was nice.
Wow.
Really nice. Yeah.
The Jimmy Buffett dreams and the jorts kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah,
So you noticed the jorts.
Yeah, the jorts are giving like serious like that dad at the barbecue wearing Costco New Balance like the white sneakers. 850 credit score.
Chance is laughing like I should be embarrassed right now. I embrace this. I embrace this vibe.
Like you should be embarrassed. I'm laughing because of why I'm laughing.
Yeah. Because it's funny. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I hope you have an 850 credit score. I'll put that into the universe for you. The jorts need it.
I have an excellent credit score. Thank you very much. My second recurring dream theme is, I want to say dream team, being a basketball fan. I will say this is for you, I guess. On an airplane, I have like a freak out probably more than half the times I fly, or at least every time I sleep on an airplane, I have a dream that I'm falling while I'm on the airplane. So like I'll wake up in the middle of my seat going onto the person next to me. That's happened to me at minimum a dozen times, and I'm not exaggerating, where like I bump the person next to me because I feel like I'm falling while I'm flying, and then I flail, and it just gets ugly and bad. So yeah, if you ever see somebody doing that, doing whatever profession you may do in the future, I'm one of them.
You are the problem.
I am the problem. It's me. Your turn again.
Oh, it's my turn again. Darn. Okay. I think so. One dream that I had like reoccurring for like a year was so after I quit one of my jobs, I had like employee housing, but there was like a fire in the area, so I like couldn't leave the area because it was on an island. And so I was there for like an extra like 2 days, which like really isn't that much. Like it's a reasonable amount of time to like pack up your stuff and leave. But like I just felt so guilty about it. And I kept having this like reoccurring dream where I'm like squatting there and I'm like still living there. I love anxiety dreams.
So yeah, I'm trying to diagnose the dream. So this is you just being anxious that you're being trapped on this situation?
Well, no, just I'm like still there like squatting. Like I'm a total goody two shoes in real life. Like not hiker trash, like but like real life.
Yeah.
So like, oh my God, I'm living there for 2 extra days. How dare I? And then I don't know, I just kept having reoccurring dreams about it for like years, where I'm like talking to like the landlord. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm still living here. And I'm like sneaking around, like trying to get groceries and shit. Like, just basic life.
But that was out of your control, right? You shouldn't have to feel guilty about that.
No, absolutely not. No.
Good.
But no, I don't have those dreams anymore. But it was a weird one that lasted for like a year.
Yeah.
So.
Dreams are so interesting.
This one I feel very passionately about.
Okay.
This one, okay, do you ever, obviously you do, everyone does, but when you sit down to watch TV and you know what type of show you want to watch, you know what type of movie you want to watch, and you're like, this is what I want to watch tonight. I'm like in this mood, I'm feeling this vibe. This is me with these types of dreams. And when I'm feeling this vibe, will go to sleep with the intention of, we are having this dream tonight.
You can set your dream genre?
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
But like try and you might don't, and you'll never know. And
what do you do to set the genre?
Just like hope really hard.
Okay.
Just hope really hard.
You're like manifesting.
Yeah, like
your dreams.
tonight we will dream this. And these reoccurring dreams are dinosaur dreams. And the point of the dream is like dinosaurs come back. But it's not Jurassic Park where like someone does something dumb and human. They come out of the clouds every time. It's like like you are standing there. It's like a brisk summer evening, and like the temperature is a certain way, and the clouds look a certain way. And when I was young, the clouds used to like kind of feel a certain way, where I'd be like, "Dude, this is totally the day dinosaurs come back." Kind of flowed into the dreams. But anyway, so this is kind of how the dream starts. It's a certain type of like August evening. Vibes are right, clouds are cloudy, sun is setting, dinosaurs come out of the clouds, and dinosaurs are back. And I have had the most insane, like zombie-esque, like action-packed, thrilling, wake up fully sweating dreams about dinosaurs being back. Like,
is this more Jurassic Park or Palm Springs?
Oh my God, no! What do you mean? What does that mean?
Have you seen the movie Palm Springs?
Like when he repeats the day over and over?
Yeah, there's dinosaurs in that movie.
Where?
Toward the end, I think they're tripping and they see dinosaurs.
Oh no! This is like dinosaur. Like what if a T-Rex was right there? Like this is like run for your life. They are eating people.
Okay, so Jurassic Park, more Jurassic Park. Yeah.
So the last one I remember, I was in my hometown neighborhood. I remember specifically the neighbor whose yard I had run into the backyard of. They had a greenhouse, which they currently never have had. But in the dream, they had a greenhouse, and people were like climbing up the walls of the greenhouse, and the dinosaurs were eating them. And I ran into the house, and there was a fridge in the downstairs. And if you ran through the fridge, there was like an opening to a room that was like a safe room. And I had finally made it there. When I made it there, the dinosaurs got sucked back into the clouds, and then I woke up.
Sounds like you going into the bear locker when the bison were coming.
Yeah, but it was a fridge. That wasn't actually a fridge.
Yeah.
Anyway, dinosaur dreams, go to bed with the intention of having one. They're the best.
Doesn't sound relaxing at all.
It's not.
Yeah.
But you don't have them like this is like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
This is like a once in a while feeling kind of fun.
Sure. But when you have intense dreams like that, for me, I wake up feeling not refreshed because I've spent so much energy.
Yeah, you don't do this before a big test, but like think about like you don't every night you're not like I want to watch a horror movie, but every now and then they're kind of fun.
Yeah. No.
And it feels lifelike because for all you know, it's real. So it's like the most real horror movie you could watch.
Yeah.
I hate horror movies.
So you're summoning nightmares.
Kind of.
Yeah, nice, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Your turn again.
Oh, okay. Classic girl dream. Garrett cheats on me or breaks up with me.
Sure. Yeah.
Horrible.
Which one is more heartbreaking for you?
Just depends on the night. They happen pretty frequently. The guy is the nicest person in the world. Why are you wearing your headphones like that?
I just like to hear the ambient sounds.
Cool. I'm glad this is video. Check out our YouTube, guys. Zach looks great. Yeah, so it just depends. Garrett is the nicest person in the world. Would never do anything ever. But
is he cheating with the same person?
But Dream Garrett, no. And it's always different. But Dream Garrett is mean. And he's a little cheat. And I always wake up mad.
Do you at least know that it's irrational? Like you are the anger and sadness is real, but do you at least have the space to know?
Apologize. And he's like, for what? And I'm like, I feel hurt right now. And he's like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, you say that, but I saw otherwise in my dreams. And like he's taken on different personas too.
What if he was cheating with a dinosaur? Merging your dreams.
That's like the ultimate nightmare.
Yeah.
I'll go into more details off air, but there have been some wild ones where he's like, how did that even make sense in your brain? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm still very hurt. But I think every person can relate to those, and they are very reoccurring, and they probably stem from some sort of self-consciousness I have. And somehow he never gets them.
Yeah.
But I get them.
Sure.
Frequently.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's good.
Keeps things fresh.
Yeah. Clumsy, you're up again.
All right. So it hasn't really been like dreams, but more like nap time La La Land thoughts, when you're like kind of in between like sleeping and like not sleeping. Because so I've been listening to the Fourth Wing series on Trail. I'm not going to give any spoilers. Hopefully. I'm sorry if I do. But recently I've been like La La Land dreaming that I'm Violet Sorrengail, and I'm like kind of here for it.
I would be here for it. Oh my god, put me in that dream,
dude. Right, like Zayden Ryerson, he can get it.
Yeah,
you can show up with a couple of jugs of water.
Are you Violet prior to Zayden? Like, are you Violet crossing the parapet Violet, or are you Violet like shouting Zaddy Violet?
I am like, please shadow daddy, like kind of Violet, this. And those who get it, get it. Those
yeah, I was about to say those who know.
You should read Fourth Wing because all the girlies are reading smut on
If
Trail.
you are hiking currently and you are thinking, man, it is month 5 of this hike, I am bored out of my mind, what do I do? Download Audible, download Fourth Wing. Thank me later.
Or you could also listen to the A Court of Thorns and Roses series.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. Start with either. A Court of Thorns and Roses starts off really slow, and you're like, why is this wolf important? What's going on? Her sister's a bitch. Get past that. It gets better. Fourth Wing just starts good, and it keeps getting good.
It does.
It's just like good all the way around.
It's like if ACOTAR and Divergent had a love child.
Yes.
Like I feel like that's the only way to describe it.
Yes.
Because Zayden at the beginning honestly kind of reminded me of 4 from Divergent, and just like, I have to take care of you,
I could
like
see
that
Theo
kind of vibe.
playing him.
Honestly, I could too. I don't know why, but like Dane from Fourth Wing, I keep seeing as Sir Christian Cole from House of the Dragon. I don't know why. Laugh.
All I can think is
laugh, monkey, laugh.
Whoever gets the movie rights to this just won the Powerball, because this is going to become the biggest movie series ever.
I just want every hot man.
Yeah, and I also
smells
don't know
like citrus.
Thank you.
No, it's mint and leather for this one.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You're thinking of Rhysand.
Yeah.
He smells like citrus.
Yeah,
but you'll learn. Don't worry.
I also don't know why, but like Varish from like Iron Flame, I keep seeing him as like Jeff Bezos, but the South Park one with the huge brain, because I feel like the narrator's voice kind of sounds like him. But please tell me you know who I'm talking about.
There's going to be such a small percentage of people listening that are laughing with this, but they're really going to laugh with this.
I know.
Wow, I appreciate that heavily.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would love to be Violet Sorngell if there's any shadow daddies out there. Maybe ones who have an ambulance. Hit me up.
Yeah. Or a dragon.
Or a dragon.
Like, I'm not picky.
I don't have high expectations at all.
Yeah. All right, Zach, you're next.
Yeah, someday I'll understand. Or maybe not. Probably not. My last recurring dream theme is, I think this is probably the one that makes my dreams the most unique. At least I hope that to be true, is that I have a lot of very mundane dreams. Like, legitimately, I'll go out and do chores, and like I'll go to the grocery store and go grocery shopping. I had one the other day where like I went out to get cilantro and they didn't have it, and I just said, "Oh," and like I walked out. Like, that was my dream. Like, I took time out of my dream space to not get cilantro at the grocery store. Yeah, and I'll just wake up being like, how does my brain produce that when I have the ability to create anything? Like, I just didn't come home with cilantro.
You need to listen to Dirty Fairy books.
Apparently I need more, sleep, fantasy smut in my life.
Well, you were telling me at the bar that The Boys is men's fantasy smut.
Yes, I'm brand new into the series, so I can't wait to dive in deeper. But it sounds like it's 180 degrees in terms of it being fantastical, but geared toward the other gender.
Zach explained this show to me about an hour ago as a boys' show where people are superheroes and they can get really small and go into other people's pee holes.
Like their wieners?
Yeah.
So this is hearsay at this point. I haven't actually seen that episode, but that is how it was described to me, and I will report back.
I was explaining Akatar to him and throwing a glass to him, and he was like, "Oh, so it's kind of like The Boys." And I was like, "In what way?" And he was
that
like,
sounds nothing like The Boys.
They can get really small and go in each other's pee holes.
No, that is the show. The Boys is their superheroes. It's just the most ridiculous premises. Like, again, I described it as It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia met Marvel. I can't speak to it too much. I've only watched the first 15 minutes of the first episode, but it has been endorsed to me heavily. And yeah, my comparison was, you're living in a fantasy world where it's like the dorky female character gets swept off of her feet and swooned and all that, and guys just want to laugh and gore and stupid shit. And like, they're both ridiculous in very different ways. And I think, The Boys is for the boys, and fairy porn is for the girls. We all are happy.
And we all live in equilibrium.
I feel like if I could go like really small, like I could shrink myself down to that size, the last thing I would do is put myself into one of my friends' penises.
Where would you put yourself?
That's a really good question. Not into one of my friends' penises.
What was a really good friend though?
Yeah, well, like maybe I would like sit on my friend's shoulder and do like the angel devil thing. Just like do it.
Yeah.
Do it, you know?
Sure.
Would you go into one of your friends' penises if you could shrink yourself?
And if so, who?
I don't know any of these people. I just had the question lingering in my mind.
Which one would you go into?
Scottie Pippins, and All right. Well, that concludes the recurring dream segment. But yeah, that was fun. Good job, guys.
Cool.
It's all going to be downhill from the van sex or the ambulance sex, so we'll just go quickly. Mailbag. I didn't know you two made whiskey until I saw Two Gingers Whiskey by Brother-in-Law's House. Who knew? A link to twogingerswhiskey.com from Mountain Goat. Shout out to Two Gingers Whiskey. If somebody wants to send us some, we'll gladly take it. Although I will say people have sent us a lot of whiskey. We've done a bad job drinking it. Are we just getting soberer? You're drinking water right now, so you're definitely the problem.
I got tipsy off of 2 drinks. Guys, do I need to say that I was on drugs again? For everyone who's new here that's not on the Patreon, I get panic attacks while I fly, so I medicate when I fly. This is like doctor prescribed stuff. This isn't just like self fixes. Doctor prescribed stuff. So this morning I'm on medicine, and then we had 2 beers, and I got tipsy, and
yeah,
you just got to get in the Cocoa Bankies.
Yeah. So wanted a break.
So shout out to Mountain Goat. Yeah, we should try this whiskey sometime.
Anyway, 5-star review. This is from NSJDJFNFJSN. Hilarious. 5 stars.
I listened to episode number 250 a few days ago. I am almost always driving when listening, and I almost had to pull over. I was laughing so hard at Jabba telling the story of farting during sex. On a serious note, you guys do such a great job at organizing informative interviews. I love the variety of the guests. Their adventures are always entertaining. Thanks for keeping this thing going, Caitlin. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Caitlin. If you guys want to have your reviews read on this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us any number of stars, just not
2, 3, 4, 1
in that order. Super big thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners. Do we have everyone on here this time?
Just at a glance, I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like that this name is last.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Austin Ford, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stumberg, Brian Alsop,
Fables,
Christopher Marshburn, Coach from Marion Outdoors, Dane,
Ish,
Derek Cook, Eric Casper,
Friendly Ghost,
Eric Hoffman, Jillian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg McDaniel, Haley Buckingham,
Palace,
Liz Seeger, Patrick C. and Cialo, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo,
and Tracy Trigger, and Griffin Haywood. You bring me a beer?
I hate.
You hate Griffin Haywood?
No, I love Griffin Haywood. I hate not having Tracy Trigger funds go last.
Sean's life is all about change and adapting. You can follow us on social media. Clumsy, what you don't want to plug your social media given all the.
Maybe
you can.
Does.
I could.
It's up to you.
I don't know.
It's up to you. This is your call.
Don't make him make you feel bad.
You can do whatever you want. I host the podcast and I usually don't.
Let him pressure you.
Dude, I don't want my mom to know about the van life sex though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, stop trying
sometimes
to make her
mom just
know.
doesn't need to know.
This is your opportunity, and passing was a perfectly viable option. At Backpacker Radio on Instagram and TikTok, at Backpacker Pod on X. Facebook.com. You can follow Chance.
We're on YouTube. Hi, Internet.
Oh, did you want to plug your social?
Yeah, but I thought we would just do the Backpacker Radio ones first.
I guess we'll go out of order.
How is that out of order? We just did all the other ones.
I mean, there's a follow us on YouTube thing at the bottom.
I'm Juliana_Chauncey on Instagram, Juliana Chauncey on YouTube. You can get my book, Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends on Amazon.
Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trials. Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
No, you say it. No, you say it.
Follow us on YouTube. What's up, YouTube?
Hi, Internet.
We've done this before. Okay, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me,
This
guys.
was an all-time story. Stories.
Yeah, I mean, I got more to tell you guys after the show.
Fuck yeah.
But,
Well, we got more alcohol for you.
Hell yeah, that's all I need.
Let's go.
Yeah, this is the most entertaining. I'm going to go get ice for my cocktails experience I've had.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for being spontaneous.
Hell yeah.
Okay. That's it for today's show. Happy hiking.
Bye.